All right, what's up, everybody? Crypto Coffee here with Tao of Satoshi, otherwise known as Christopher Kalufis,
Carruthers.
Carruthers. I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's
on
fine.
on on Twitter. So he is a well-known Dash guy in the space, and we're here to do kind of a stream just to bridge the two communities together because I think we can both find some opportunity and some mutual bonding through suffering that we've had to go to as communities in the early days. So do you want to give your little intro?
Yeah, well, I'm Tao Satoshi, Dash community member. I've been involved in the space since 2014. I've invested in Bitcoin at the beginning, and then I decided that Bitcoin wasn't enough for me. I wanted a bit more with my cryptocurrency. And I looked into the other options that were available at the time, and I saw that Dash was building quite a community and quite a technology, and they had a roadmap for the future, which they've accomplished, and we'll get into it now. But yeah, so I basically ditched Bitcoin. I went all in on Dash, and then after a while, I was doing promotion with Dash, and I started the Dash Nation movement, and that's basically trying to get what you guys have in Hex. You know, like a lot of passionate people around Dash, and wanted to promote it everywhere that they go. And then I encountered Hex, and at the beginning I just thought it was maybe a pump and dump, so I bought some to dump it before the big payday. But then I did more research, and I said, you know what, this is actually something that might have some legs long term. So that's why I approached the Hex community, and I said, I'm going to start promoting it in my own way. I'm not going to do the crazy live streams that you guys do, but I'm just going to do like little videos here and there.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, we're glad to have you on board with us. The more the merrier. And I think as Hex kind of proves itself in the sense of just not being the exit scam that everybody wanted it to be, and not being that, Richard just runs away with everyone's money and project crashes to zero, and with 100% uptime and no critical vulnerabilities, that tends to just create a bigger gravitational pull, and it makes people think twice. A lot of people that I know, I mean, probably yourself included, just kind of overlooked it or brushed it off at first. And it took a few months to be like, oh, hey, this is legit. It's not going anywhere, and it's secure. It's been audited, and it's just a really solid product. And one of the only products I know in the space that's finished and not really, that doesn't really have a roadmap, which is strange, right? Like anything good that happens in Hex just happens retroactively, and we can all look back on it and be very happy, but there's no promises of future work. And I think that's the paradox that a lot of people have a hard time with. First of all, anything just being completed in crypto is very, very rare. And I think, things at the protocol level should have continuous improvement, right? But products built on top of, for example, Ethereum, Hex is built on top of Ethereum. These smart contracts were not intended to always have to be updated. So there shouldn't be, I mean, you can have admin keys on them. You can have backdoors and make updates to them if you want to. But that really wasn't the original intention of building on top of a platform. I think Dash is kind of the same way, right? It's a platform that I'm not sure if it has smart contract abilities now, but that's not to say it couldn't in the future. But it makes more sense, I think, for the underlying technology to get continually upgraded. And that's what we saw with Bitcoin too. It's Bitcoin had its upgrades, but it's not really, it's kind of stagnated. It's kind of solidified and crystallized. And that's both a good and a bad thing, right? Because every time you upgrade Bitcoin, it poses new risk, existential risk of new vulnerabilities and stuff like that. But you also want something that does more than 7 transactions a second, that can do, that can pick up the slack. A lot of the Bitcoin people, I think, aren't willing to accept the reality that Bitcoin isn't good for peer-to-peer cash. Then that's what it was intended to be, and it's okay that the narrative changes, right? It's okay to be a store of value, and that's what it ended up being. But there's all these other cool developments going on in Ethereum, going on Dash, with Hex especially, that people are kind of overlooking, and it's happening right now. I mean, we have fast instant transactions right now with ZK Sync. We have privacy. We have anonymity with Tornado.cash on Ethereum. And I'm sure Dash has a lot of privacy solutions as well, right?
Yeah, we have PrivateSend, and that's been in development since 2014. It's been constantly improved since then. The latest PrivateSend that you use on the Dash Core wallet, it's like basically like a sophisticated version of CoinJoin. It's not a centralized server that you're using. You're using a whole bunch of multiple decentralized servers around the world. And if you set it to around like 10 levels, 10 rounds, it's not going to be able to be traced. It has never been broken yet, as there's actually $100,000 bounty out to break it. One thing I will say about it is it's not as user friendly as, say, like a Monero, where you just come in and everything's automatically like cryptographically private. But the problem with that is that if something comes along, say like a computer a quantum computer that can solve all those cryptographic equations, guess what? All of Monero's transactions are now out in the open. Whereas with Dash, we're kind of hiding in plain sight. It's kind of like a 3-card money game. You know, like it doesn't matter if quantum computers come along, it's still going to be the same addresses shuffling all these coins around. So you can't really tell where things have come from. Oh, so this is something that people don't understand. Like, they don't get it. Like, say, yeah, okay, Monero is the king of privacy, or they bill themselves as the king of privacy. And it's true right now, probably it's very hard to do a transaction. But that threat of quantum computers always lingers over Monero, where it doesn't in Dash.
Yeah, that is one of the things that everyone likes to bring up. Oh, what about quantum computers hacking the SHA-256 algorithm or whatever? I think that's a long way off from what I understand. I don't know really anything about that, other than the fact that I guess quantum computers are so in their infancy right now that it's apparently not something we'll even have to worry about for decades, probably. I think the quantum computers that we have do like 1 to 4 qubits or something, which is, you know, not anything really at all. And again, I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to that kind of stuff. But you brought up Monero. I think I just read an article that Monero, some CIA guys or one of the 3-letter agencies developed a tracing software for Monero. So it actually wasn't quite all that private, which is unfortunate, right? Because privacy is one of the things that crypto was invented for. Mm-hmm. It was invented to be totally fungible. And, you know, I think Dash, from what I understand, does a good job of that. Hex has its own kind of solution as well. It's called tornado.cash, and somebody made a different implementation specifically for Hex. So it can kind of cycle through different, you know, everybody kind of pools their Hex together and it gets shuffled around, and you have to do even increments of, you know, 10,000 or 100,000 or 1,000,000, because otherwise, you know, it'd be easy to track those increments that went in if they were all different. And apparently these get shuffled around between a whole bunch of different nodes in the anonymity set. And I think right now it's, at least the ETH version is fairly mature. The Hex specific version, I've tested it out and it seems to work. I just don't think the number of participants is high enough yet, because it's so early for it to be fully anonymous. But Dash has been around for what, 4 years, 6 years?
Yeah, we've been around since 2014, so we'll be going into our 7th year. It's going to turn, it'll turn 7 in January in 2021.
Wow.
Yeah,
2014. So after 6 years of existing and 6 years of improvements and 6 years of thriving, how have you noticed the attitude start to change around the quote unquote controversy around Dash? And I'm sure a lot of the Hex people are feeling a lot of the pain right now, especially with having just finished our launch phase. You know, we just came out with a successful launch, and you know, we're not going anywhere, and it went perfectly. And we're still getting a lot of flack and a lot of name calling and finger pointing online. So from your perspective, being around 6 years, do you still get a lot of that animosity?
Well, Dash had a rough start. The developer, Evan Duffield, he had a lot of visions, a lot of things. He was like a visionary, but he had a hard time at the beginning putting it into code. So basically, at the beginning, he was working a full-time job at a kind of like I think it was a financial firm, and he was doing this on his weekends. So then he basically came and he said, okay, I'm going to do this on my weekends. And then he didn't realize how it was going to blow up. He didn't realize how many people were going to be interested in that privacy aspect. And so he made a lot of mistakes at the beginning with basically it had to do with the block rewards. So at the beginning, it mined like a lot of coins, because something to do with the block reward it inherited from Litecoin. So after a while, people were saying, well, this is a scam, because what he did is had a huge output in the first couple of days, and then he ratcheted back the block reward so it wouldn't be so how do you call it? Like, so there would be so many coins, right? Because
Yeah.
you want to have that source of scarcity, right? So people
Yeah.
were saying, oh, you did this on purpose, and it really enriched the first people involved and stuff like that. And they said there was a pre-mine, which there wasn't. Everybody had an opportunity to get these 500 Dash blocks that were coming out at the beginning. But just it was a mess. I'll be honest with you, it was a mess.
Oh, so it was basically a hyperinflation phase, kind of like Hex had for the past year.
Kind of.
Very analogous, I would say, because people got mad about that too. Oh, it's only going to enrich the early people. But really what we're doing is we're getting the hyperinflation out early. So you can have much, much, much lower, steady, sustainable inflation for the remainder of the period.
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds like something maybe similar to what Dash did. And of course, people get the terminology wrong all the time. You know, people want to just brush it off and call it a pre-mine, which back in those days was the big the big controversy. Here it's rug pull and exit scam and these different words that people have no idea what they really mean, and they just point at Hex and say, oh look, it's a rug pull because the price dropped. It's like, no, the rug pull is when the liquidity gets pulled out, and it's an exit scam because you're giving all your money to an unknown party and he exits with it. It's like, okay, but that's the same as just transferring one thing for another. And why do you have to need to know where that other token goes? So there's all these name calling. Sorry.
Yeah. So like, just to continue the story that I had, like you were saying, how we've evolved in the last 7 years. So while I said that the beginning was a mess, this guy was a visionary, and because he was a visionary, he brought so many innovations to Dash. And this is where you see over time, it started to prove itself, right? Once we got over the rocky launch, it started to smooth out, and we started to concentrate on the future. We developed privacy. We developed a better algorithm for block rewards and dealing with the increase and decrease in hash rate, so everything stays smooth. That's called dark gravity wave. That's something that a lot of people don't know about. We created masternodes, and that masternodes lead to a whole lot of innovations, such as instant technology, instant transactions, cheap transactions, because we have a voting system through the masternodes that we can say, oh, we're going to vote for certain projects and we're going to vote for a certain direction, rather than on, say, a Bitcoin has to fork because they have no way of having any kind of decisions. But in Dash, we have ways to do those decisions. There's just so many things that we could talk about. Like basically every single problem that Bitcoin has, Dash has solved it or is in the process of solving it. And this is why Dash is ridiculously undervalued at this point, because it's been gatekept. Anytime we post something on our cryptocurrency, it gets downloaded to oblivion, downvoted to oblivion.
That place is just garbage, man. I mean, if you go on there, I read a post on our cryptocurrency the other day that literally was, hey guys, upvote this if you think we should block this list of cryptocurrencies from ever posting. So just pure outright censorship of these 20. Hex was definitely on it. Dash might have been on it. Probably was.
I'm sure it was.
And other ones like CRO and other prominent ones, just because some mod doesn't like it. And it's disgusting because you're on a cryptocurrency forum that's about censorship resistance and you're voting on what currencies to censor.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? But going back to Dash, the masternode thing, I had a point that I wanted to make. I think the voting or governance structure might be a little bit better for masternodes than some of these other governance token type deals, because the only people that care enough to set up a masternode and understand that technology are generally kind of the only people you want with any kind of voting power in your system. There's this other silly idea that I see a lot in a lot of these Ethereum tokens where they give out governance tokens to everybody. And do you really want anyone on the street that has no idea what's going on to have a say in the protocol? No, I think you want the person to, care enough and have some skin in the game and have some technical ability to actually understand the protocol a little bit. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is exactly right. Like, you make a good point. There's a lot of people in Dash that kind of say, well, it's a barrier to entry, 1,000 Dash. We're never going to be able to get 1,000 Dash. It's a oligarchy or whatever, and it's like, come on. This has been around for a long time. If you wanted to, you could have gotten Dash for pennies, and you could have had a masternode if you want to. It's only now that it's expensive you're complaining about it. And people that have been around for a long time, that have had masternodes for a long time, like you say, we have done our research, we've done our homework, and we know what's going on in Dash. We know where the vision is that we want to take it. And that's why it's very important to have people that have that stake in the game. So I'm happy that you recognize that.
Yeah. Well, and another question for you too. What happened to Adam, the original creator? Is he still around or
Oh, Evan, yeah,
Evan? Sorry.
yeah, Evan Duffield. He was the original creator, but he ran into some family problems. So yeah, and then he moved to Hong Kong, and I think he got involved in like substance abuse and stuff like that. Like he had issues in his life, and so he's kind of dropped off the face of Dash. But now we have like the modern organization of Dash is CEO Ryan Taylor. He's the CEO of the Dash Core Group, which is not to say he's CEO of Dash, because he's not. The Dash network at any time can outvote him, like can say we want to remove him from his position. So he's not the CEO of Dash, but he is the CEO of the Dash Core Group, and the Dash Core Group is who's responsible for the code now. So whereas it was centralized around a few people, now basically it's in the hands of the Masternode network. And why is it in the hands of the Masternode network? I'm just going to say quickly. If you want to continue with it, we can. But the Masternode network is a decentralized group, right? We don't want to do KYC. We don't want to do any of that stuff. So we can't own Dash Core Group, the company, directly. So what they set up was a trust in New Zealand. So it's a trust that is owned by the Masternode network. We're allowed to own the Masternode network the trust. Sorry, we're allowed to own the trust without KYC, and then the trust is allowed to own Dash Core Group. So basically, we got the Dash Core, the Masternode network that says what it wants to do. The trust has to take that information and give it to Dash Core Group, and they're legally obligated to do what the Masternode network says. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys found a structure that works out for you. It looks like you got some office space too in the background there. So
that's it's my basement.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, if it's set up as a home office, because doing kind of YouTube and Twitter and doing stuff on my website and stuff like that. So yeah.
I mean, well, 6 years is a long time for any cryptocurrency to be around and thriving. So I think it's kind of just a message, especially to the Hex community, that we're not going anywhere and things are only going to get better in terms of hopefully how we're perceived by the public, because really that's the only thing that Hex doesn't really have going for it right now. It's just a lot of a noise from inside the crypto community. We get received very well from external people and from outbound messaging, which is really all of our priority right now. When you talk to somebody that's a no coiner or maybe has heard of Bitcoin, they understand the concept easily. It's very easy to explain a digital CD as long as somebody knows what CD is. It's very easy to make analogies to Bitcoin if somebody knows what Bitcoin is. And it's very easy to just pitch the dream of basically it's like buying Bitcoin at $1. It's like a new financial revolution that's even more attractive to hold than Bitcoin is, because you have this staking component. It's got a great community. It's in the early days. It's just got past launch phase, so it's almost like another chance and inspiring kind of hope for real adoption in the crypto space, because it also fixes so many of the problems that Bitcoin has. The expensive, slow transactions are solved. The unit bias is solved. I believe it's more secure than Bitcoin. There's just so many things going for it that I'm sure you've realized too, and that's why you're in it now. So, was there one point, one day, or one fact or moment that you learned about that tipped you over the edge to be like, okay, I'm going all in on Hex?
Well, I didn't go all in on Hex. I'm still about, it's about 10, probably about maybe 15% of what I have. So is in that. But other than that, I'm okay. I think that the Hex is a very good thing, but there are some things in the back of my mind that are a little bit, I'm not sure. So that's why I didn't go, I just kind of experimented. And this is why, like anything, right? There's always, where there's smoke, there's fire. But like when the things that people criticize about Dash are the things that we just need to explain to people. So from my perspective, I'm talking to you. You definitely have more experience in Hex than I do. So these are the things that I always see about Hex that are like actually people have a problem with. So I want to know from Hex people that are involved in Hex these things that they have a problem with. Obviously, the first thing is the OA. Like the origin address. A lot of people use that and say, well, this is a scam because of that. So could you explain to me why the OA is there and what it's been doing and why we shouldn't be worried about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to. So a lot of cryptocurrencies out there have massively centralized economic ownership, right? And that's a very different thing than technical centralization. Decentralization is a spectrum, right? Nothing will ever be truly 100% decentralized because, what does that even mean, right? The atoms in the air had to become centralized for you to even exist. So it's not necessarily a perfect utopian thing that everything's perfectly decentralized all the time, right?
That's a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah. And 42% of Bitcoin, all Bitcoin, is, after 10 years, owned by the top 2,000 addresses. So that's an element of centralization there too. It's a spectrum. It's not a yes or a no. It's not a 1 or a 0. And so the idea with Hex is to have the origin address there to prevent what's called tragedy of the commons, right? If you give an equal amount of crypto to every person in the network, no one's going to have enough skin in the game to be incentivized to see that project do well. So I think that you need early whales, let's call them, and people with more skin in the game to help drive the product forward and to help promote and see the success of the product. Now, over time, things become more decentralized, right? So over time, you can assume that some of that OA energy, economic energy, will be more and more distributed and more diluted out into the people. But I think in the early days, you need that centralization so you don't have tragedy of the commons. And going back to the very important distinction that Hex is not technically centralized in any means, whereas 90% of these other projects in DeFi, and I'm particularly talking on Ethereum because that's kind of the ecosystem that we live in Hex, but all these coins seem to have backdoors, admin keys. Somebody can just go ahead and change the code whenever they want to, or these weird voting structures where, they're basically either, a lot of the voting structures that I've seen, if they give the voting power to the people, that could be a disaster. But what ends up tending to happen is that pretty much all the voting coins become centralized again in the hands of the people that actually run or invented the protocol, kind of like the Uni token. That's pretty much all owned by the people creating the Uni smart contract. But yeah, you don't want these backdoors. You don't want these technical vulnerabilities. And that's really what we're trying to get across with crypto. That's the number one, first and foremost priority is you can't have something that can be shut down by a third party. So there's no middlemen in Hex. There's no counterparty risk that somebody can shut it off. And that's the number one most important thing in Bitcoin and Hex and Dash and anything. You want. So I think the origin address, people get angry that other people have more money than them, but they don't see the bigger picture that it's okay because these people have good intentions. And that's kind of the leap that you have to make. It's like, if you don't think that these people have good intentions, then I cannot help you on that. You can look at the top 20, you can look at the top 100 ERC20 tokens on etherscan.com. Just go to etherscan.io, and you go to top tokens and you could see, BNB token, CRO token, Chainlink, all of these things. The majority of the tokens are centralized in, let's say, the top 10 addresses probably hold 80 to 90% of the tokens. In Hex, it's actually a little bit more distributed than you might find in some of these other ones. So I don't think that's as big of a concern if you can get over the fact that, why would Jeff Bezos dump all of his stock on the market and crash the price to zero? Why would anybody want to self-destruct their own product, essentially? So to me, that never made sense. Of just the fact that it can happen doesn't mean it will. And I think that's a risk in everything. It's an inherent. Why doesn't Satoshi sell all of his Bitcoin tomorrow? If Satoshi sold the 1 million Bitcoin that he had, assuming he's not dead, then that would crash the price of Bitcoin to near zero because there's not enough liquidity to sell 1 million Bitcoin on the open market right now.
Right.
That's about all I can say. If somebody can't see that the way that incentives are aligned and the way that psychology works and the way that people behave, then, I don't really know what else to say. But, we look at, Richard made a good analogy to the De Beers Diamond Company. That company owns 80% of the supply of diamonds, but diamonds have a massively high value because of that, because they're able to control the supply and create the scarcity, right? So if you look at what the origin address has actually done, Since its inception, it's made a couple of really long stakes, just, a few, not enough to heavily sway much, in my opinion. But the majority of the coins just sat there up until big payday when they were staked, and then there was that whole thing. But now, if you look at it, they're
I think that was a good idea to do that, though, because then that kept so much coins off the market to be dumped on everybody. Because obviously that's what people wanted. They wanted to get those free coins and then just dump, right? So that part I get 100%, and that kind of convinced me that the OA was operating in an honorable way. So I think that's pretty good. But and also I think that time, like we mentioned earlier in the show, I think that time is the thing that's going to bring things together, because I've seen a lot of critical posts about Hex, but a lot of them were from early 2020. And that now that we're past the big payday, I haven't seen as much. I'm sure there still is. I'm sure you guys run into it all the time, but I haven't seen as much organized resistance to Hex as I saw at the beginning.
Yeah, it seems to be a little more decentralized hating rather than centralized. So it's like at the beginning we had the articles, right? We had the coin telegraphs and we had the people, the coin market caps are still gatekeeping us, but it's probably easy for them to just brush us under the rug and not think about us or whatever. We tried to do a big campaign to basically bother coin market cap and CoinGecko into adding us on page one. So they know that we're pissed and they're actively choosing to gatekeep us. And so we know that. And so now we've worked around to promoting other alternatives like nomics.com, which is a much more honest market cap ranking alternative. But yeah, it did seem like we had a lot of coordinated gatekeeping at first, and now it just tends to devolve to the one or two Twitter haters or random R cryptocurrency guys that just, they just hate to hate. I feel like people want to pick teams, right? And it's really fun to pick teams, but the more I've been in crypto, the more I start to appreciate people that just want mass adoption of cryptocurrency, because that's what Hex wants. Pretty sure that's what Dash wants too. I mean, you guys are trying to be in other countries, from what I understand, like integrating payment networks in, was it Venezuela?
Yeah, Venezuela. We're big there because of the opportunities that it presents to Dash, because Dash wants to prove itself as a payment network and a large scale. And of course, Venezuela has a crumbling economy, so they want to actually grab something that holds its value and works as a payment network too. So it kind of created a nice opportunity for synergy there, and that's why we decided to expand quite a bit in Venezuela, and it's been a success so far.
Yeah, I mean, especially when a country's currency is failing, then what better opportunity to come in with something stable, secure, and all that. And because I watched the Silver the Antidote video, so I did learn a little bit about potentially, people working on a Hex to Dash bridge. All that stuff seems super cool. I know Bitcoin Cash was also trying to be digital peer-to-peer cash. Can you explain how you're different than Bitcoin Cash?
Do you have half an hour? No, like literally, there's nothing about Bitcoin Cash that can even compare to Dash technologically. Okay. Like that Bitcoin might have added a couple of things to the actual Bitcoin core. It might have added a couple of things there, but Dash, the way that it uses its masternodes, Bitcoin Cash has no masternodes, and masternodes are the things that create that opportunity for all these innovations to exist. And we're better than them right now, and we're soon going to be even way better than them, because we're having a thing called Dash Platform, which is going to create a decentralized API on the masternode network. So everything that a centralized API can do, like PayPal, Venmo, we have these nice, cool apps that you can build on there, and the user experience is bar none the best until it goes down. It will be 100% uptime on the masternode network, and anything that you can do on a centralized database, you're going to be able to do on Dash in a decentralized way. So that's exciting. You're going to be able to have the same account on your phone, on your computer, on your laptop. Everywhere you go, you can access that account as long as you have an internet access. And also you're going to be a crypto coffee at Dash instead of this long string address. So awesome. What you can do is you have like a Dash Pay wallet, and what you can do in that Dash Pay wallet is if we establish a connection together, we can just send to each other's names. So if I want to send 5 Dash to you, crypto coffee, I just send it there, and it confirms instantaneously. You can access it wherever you are because you have the app on your phone or the app on your computer, wherever you are. Mm-hmm. And this is something that doesn't exist in cryptocurrency right now, and it's going to set Dash apart. And that's cool. Yeah, that's why I'm excited, because this second tier masternode network creates so many opportunities to do these things, because they're incentivized and they're in high quality data centers around the world. They can be used for scaling. They can be used for all kinds of different things. That's why Dash is going to succeed as a payment network. It's technologically ready. It's being gate kept, but we built it. So if we can get the people to come, we can get them to come. And that's one of the reasons why I want to align with Hex, because you guys are like bulldogs, man. You're like everywhere. You guys are like promoting Hex like crazy. And if I can get even some of that into Dash and have that passion in Dash, I'd be so happy to do that. So this is why I think that you guys bring what you guys bring to the table, and we can bring to the table. You guys are a great store of value. We're going to be a primo payment network. If we get together and we use each other's services and we promote each other, I think it's going to be the best for us. Because the fact that we were both considered scams too also brings us together, because we both know that we're not scams, and we both have chips on our shoulders. So I think that the synergy here is just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is an opportunity for. I mean, when you mentioned a decentralized API, that just kind of made my ears perk up, and that makes so much more sense to me than. I didn't mean to compare you directly to Bitcoin Cash, but what essentially what they did is they changed the block size and a couple of other tweaks to the base protocol, and they haven't, as far as I know, I'm going to piss off somebody, but I don't know what they've really done other than that. So if Dash has this API that can be integrated in a decentralized and trustless way where you don't need AML KYC, I think that could help a lot of people achieve the true payment vision of the decentralized cryptocurrency payment vision. And I know Ethereum has their ENS, Ethereum Name Services. So if you want to buy, a .eth domain, you can become, you can be paid in that. So I can be cryptocoffee.eth. But there's still that payment gap. And I know that we have zksync.io. So on Ethereum, there's a second layer solution called zksync.io that essentially does like what Lightning Network was trying to do, but way better and faster and just easier. So, but essentially what that is a secondary wallet that you'd have to transfer any coin in, any ERC20, Hex as an example. You transfer it into your zksync.io wallet. And now I can transact any ERC20 with anyone else instantly for under a penny always. And so it's literally lightning speeds, I think 2,000 transactions per second. But there's gaps, right? It's still kind of in its infancy as well. And I still haven't really fully grasped the bigger picture of where this will be integrated without having some kind of middleman taking your data and your KYC and your AML. So if Dash can solve those problems, I'd be very interested.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like it took us a long time to build this. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, this vision came from Evan Duffield in 2015, and he was a little bit overzealous with his predictions. He's saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to be able to do this in a year. We're going to be able to do this in 2 years." But the scope of what they're trying to accomplish and what they have to do, and the amount of bugs that happen, and the amount of testing and retesting that they had to do, it took us this long. So basically, it's coming out on testnet. This Dash platform I'm talking about, it's coming out on testnet on the end of December, and it's going to be on the mainnet about probably by the middle of next year, or maybe even the first quarter. But I'm going to say probably the middle of next year. And then once that happens, basically, there's going to be no reason to use anything else as a payment network, because Dash is going to be leaps head and shoulders over any other experience out there.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're getting close, and that's at that point is when you would probably need the Hex to Dash, converter or whatever, so you could either wrap Dash on Hex or on Ethereum or wrap Dash somehow. But it's fun to think about where that could go. Well, it's TBD if ZK Sync will outpace Dash, but it seems like you guys have had 6 years of experience and even more in the works, and it's been a long time coming. So very curious to see how that pans out.
Yeah, this is something that Dash doesn't have. Unless you own a masternode and you get a portion of the block reward for doing the service of being a masternode, you can't earn really any more Dash on your Dash unless you go into a centralized service like CrowdNode and stuff like that. So, and then that's the counterparty risk that somebody could take off with your Dash. So what I'm saying to Dashers, that any Dashers that might be watching this, is that you can take that and put it into Hex, and you can earn trustless interest on your Hex. And then when it comes time to spend it, you can bring it back to Dash and then use Dash as your payment network, which is definitely something that would be easier to do if a developer out there, and I'm going to keep hammering on this in any interview that I have, because I'm not a technically minded person. But if any developer out there knows a way of making an easy bridge between Dash and Hex, please do so. And even if we have to crowdfund it a little bit, I think it's something that's worth it to do.
Yeah. And hopefully that'll align too with Hex's giant skyrocket in price to the point where people are actually going to want to spend it. Because with Bitcoin, you know, that it took Bitcoin 10 years and people still don't want to spend their Bitcoin because they're still waiting on that pump, right? So if we can accelerate that, if we can get Hex to a stable, nice stable $10 or $5 or whatever, I know it sounds insane, but that I think is the point when people start thinking about spending their store of value. But there's that little bit of that paradox, right? So payment networks are a completely different thing than store of value, and they can both live harmoniously, and some things might be better at one versus the other. But yeah, I think a lot of people in Hex right now would have a hard time partying with their Hex because they're still waiting on that price appreciation. And, you know, it's only just begun. So the more people that come into Hex, given the liquidity and the scarcity of it with the OA and all that, once you kind of realize that and you realize how high the price can go, how quickly and how highly the price can go, it gets really exciting, and you just want to make sure. And right now it's down 75% from its all-time highs. So it's a great dip buying opportunity, in my opinion. Not financial advice, you know, not a financial advisor, but historically in Hex, people that have bought the 70% dips, we've had 4 of them. Every time it's came back way, way stronger, up to the point where we did a 263x in price at one point. And it was designed to do 10,000x, right? And I personally think that 10,000x is a little conservative as well.
Wow. So, you're optimistic.
Well, I mean, hey, Bitcoin did 1 million, right? Bitcoin went from 1 penny to $10,000. That's a million X. So if you put in $1, you'd have $1 million. Now that's if you held it too. So Hex makes it easier to hold through these dips because you're locked up and you're earning interest. So you're earning more Hex for the opportunity cost of your time, right? So you're paying with your time. It's the time value of money. So Hex capitalizes on the time value of money in that way, where Bitcoin doesn't. Bitcoin has time locking, but you don't get any interest for it. So what's the fun in that? That's why nobody does it. In Hex, it's all about, you know, how long are you staking? How many stakes do you have? What does your staking ladder look like? A lot of people, you know, we have leagues in Hex where we gamify it and we say, oh, if you have this many shares, you're a dolphin. This many shares, you're a whale. You know, a shark, a shrimp, and it's fun. You know, it makes it fun because you can set stakes coming out at a particular day. Let's say you want to, you know, make stakes for your family's birthday or your, you know, big vacation day, or you want to buy a house one day. You can plan your financial goals accordingly, and it makes savings fun. It makes cryptocurrency fun again, like the way it was supposed to be.
Make cryptocurrency great again.
That's right. I'll try not to make any analogies to Richard Harding and Donald Trump.
But this is the thing, what I think makes Hex a good store of value. Like I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on the price prediction because of the fact that there's so many Hex in circulation. I don't think the scarcity thing is going to be quite as much as it is with Bitcoin, but I definitely see it growing. I think maybe 25 cents is a good value for me with the amount of, I'm not saying I can't go any higher.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, as a realistic viewpoint with so many hexes.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm just doing Moon Boy talk right now. I mean, I try to be conservative sometimes, but deep down what I really am thinking is like $1 hex. I mean, that was always my goal. Sometimes I try to be conservative. Sometimes I try to, you know, just pump everyone's bags a little bit. But you have to realize too that not all that hex is, well, not all of it's truly circulating if you don't count the origin address. So yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and also like Ripple went to $4. There's like a ton and a half of Ripple too, right? So like it's not, there's not any reason why it can't. I just want to be a little bit more realistic in my price prediction.
Yeah.
But I think that what my point was about Hex as a store of value is that you can keep your original investment, right? You can keep your original Hex and you can just spend your interest that you've earned on it. Whereas in Bitcoin, if you're going to spend it, you're cutting into your principal. So that's why I think with Hex, you could take that interest, put it to Dash and spend it as you want, and you still have your Hex. You still have your original investment.
Exactly.
Whereas you can't do that with any other cryptocurrency, really.
Yeah, and for anyone that doesn't know, what Tom Satoshi is talking about is a staking ladder. So this might be a new concept if you're from the Dash crowd. But what a staking ladder is kind of like a CD ladder in real life. And what that is you can set up stakes expiring every month, every quarter, every year. I've got a monthly ladder and I've also got a yearly ladder kind of overlaid on top of each other. The monthly ladder ends at a shorter time, but what that means is that you can have interest accruing on all these stakes. And then let's say at the end of December, one of my stakes is coming due. I can just skim the interest off the top, sell the interest, and restake the principal for, whatever the end date of my ladder is, so that I always continue to add another rung to the ladder, so to speak. And it's like a perpetual passive income machine is what we refer to it as sometimes. So you never truly have to exit because you're making interest, and the inflation is paid to the stakers. So as long as you're staked, you're not getting diluted by inflation either.
Yeah, I think it's good because you can actually set it up kind of, even if you wanted to come out every 2 weeks and have it act like sort of a paycheck, like, and as long as you have it staked over, like say a year period or a 2-year period, every time that it comes mature, it's going to be a 2-year stake, after a certain amount of time. So
yeah, it's fun. It's I do holidays, so I've got like all my Christmases for the next 10 years. I'm getting a little Christmas gift to myself, and it's a good time. It's it feels good to be in control of your money like that, and to have something to work towards too. Because another thing about Hex, and just stop me if I'm doing too much Hex stuff, you can, but by virtue of not having to trade, a lot of cryptocurrency is based around trading. So you're staring at a screen all day long. You're trying to take somebody else's money that's on the other side of the screen. It's a zero-sum game. It doesn't really benefit anybody except for the top 2% of all traders. And so I think a lot of people waiting for the price to pump in Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatever, they end up scamming themselves out of a lot of their money by losing it via trading, because it's really hard to just hold and sit there. But in Hex, we solve this because we have an ethos kind of that trading is really not good. It's really not the ideal thing to do. Unless you're going to be the top 2% of people, or you think you are, you're probably going to end up in the meat grinder of the 98% of people that just cycle in, get wrecked, cycle out, get wrecked. I mean, it's always taking in new people to get wrecked by the big fish at the top. But with Hex, you can just stake it, set it and forget it, stake it till you make it, whatever you want to say. And you have all this new free time to do other productive things. And so a lot of us have chose to spend that free time not trading, not just sitting on our hands, but by making content and by making being an active part of the community. So spreading outreach and all that. I think that's the beauty of one of the emergent properties that comes out of Hex, is you've got a whole army of people that don't want to trade, so they've ended up doing much more productive things. Like, I know for a fact, like, Hex has saved me from wrecking my own self, and instead I've ended up just helping pump everyone's bags a little bit more. So that's one of the beautiful things about it.
Cool. So like that's why I guys see so many live streams that you guys do. You're always doing, you're always on YouTube, you're always on Twitter, you're always everywhere, because you don't have to spend that time looking at a screen. So yeah, it makes sense. Let's talk about Richard Hyde for a minute though. Like this guy, basically he created this all himself out of like doing these live streams and getting people involved, and just out of the power of his personality. So how do you think that Richard Hyde is going to continue with Hex? Like I don't think he's done a live stream since the big payday, has he?
He was on the 24-hour live stream with us at the very end, and I'm sure he's been busy. Again, we can't have expectations from the profit of the work of others.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How he tests constituent, but yeah, I'm sure he's not sitting around doing cocaine and blow, or cookers and cocaine. But what I can say is that I think he'll be around for a long time as a figurehead or just a thought leader. And more of just a cheerleader, because he's, whatever he chooses to do with his big bag of ETH, that's up to him. But, we can all speculate, and that's part of the fun as well. But yeah, you did mention that he kind of did this all single-handedly at the beginning, right? So it was really an inspiration to me to start a YouTube channel, seeing what he did, just with the power of word of mouth and just one-to-many influencer marketing. Basically, he probably didn't realize what he was doing, but it was influencer marketing. I'm sure he realized. And he formed a following of maybe 60,000 on YouTube, maybe 50K on Twitter. And it was almost a cult following. I mean, it was a group of people that were so excited by the idea, just from the way that he talked about it. He didn't, before Hex and probably after as well, he didn't spend $1 on marketing. It was all just his live streams, his interacting with the audience, and his being honest and truthful about cryptocurrency and about the state of affairs, about the shortcomings of Bitcoin, the shortcomings of Ethereum, and the strengths of both. So a lot of people don't like to hear anything bad or abrasive, and sometimes his language can be a little, depending on who you talk to, right? But he's being his authentic self.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think that's what a lot of people realized, and that was the spark that ignited a lot of us, myself included, to take action. And we realized that after getting all this hate, Richard shouldn't have to go through that alone. I mean, it seemed so just kind of mean for all these people to be hating on something that somebody worked 2 years on to create, to try to fix the vision of what crypto and bring it back to what crypto is supposed to be, in his own way, in his own eyes. And it just seemed ridiculous to a lot of us that started getting so much hate. So we all felt, hey, like, let's go take part and be kind of the future that we want to realize, right? So.
And you know what I like about his approach is he's not out there making like outlandish promises. He's not out there. Well, aside from the fact that he said it's designed to pump, but I'm talking about like things that he's going to do for the project. He doesn't say, "Oh, I'm going to do this and this is when it's going to happen." He just gets things done and then announces it. So like if it's a big deal, then he announces it and then the price pumps. It's not like a pump and dump where they buy the rumor and sell the news, right? So I think that's something that's good. Like I think that's if he has something to say, he'll say it, and then let the price go where it goes from there. Yeah. He doesn't make any promises, so I respect that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it would be very, very easy for him to, and I'm sure he wants to, right? But he can't. Like, his hands are tied. So whatever good stuff happens in Hex, it's either because of you, because you are the network. Everybody is a little piece of the network, or it's because of whatever he chooses to do that he'll tell you about later. Yep. Kind of like he just made for example, a really quick update to the go.hex.com page, because I think a lot of people were emergency end staking without realizing the brevity of that, and really just wrecking themselves, like nuking their whole accounts. So he just put a yellow and red banner on the box and changed the message to be like, hey, are you really, really sure you want to do this? It's an advanced feature for advanced users only. Make sure you know what you're doing. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's a nice update. Maybe people won't wreck themselves. Even though the message was already there, he just made it a lot brighter, a lot more, a lot easier to read. And that's just a very small example.
Yeah, more alarmish.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I mean, it's already a red button, and it takes 3 clicks in order to actually sell it, because you got to click once on the red button, once on the yes, I'm sure, and then once on your MetaMask verification. But people are still out there claiming that they don't know. By the way, guys, if you end your stake earlier than you say you were going to in Hex, you can pay a massive penalty depending on how much of the stake you've completed. Now, if you've completed 99% of it, chances are you're not going to get hit that bad. But if you stake for 5 years and you only serve 10 days, you're going to lose your whole entire stack. You're going to lose it all. So be very careful. We don't want to sugarcoat anything. We don't want to pretend that that's not a real thing. Like, we're being very honest. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, this is something that Hex is different than other cryptocurrencies, because right now you see a lot of the cryptocurrencies are get rich quick. I'm gonna get in, I'm gonna get out, and stuff like that. And that's just not what Hex is. Hex is more of like a legacy, set it and forget it, save for life moments type of thing. And this is something that makes it stand out too. And this is why I respect Hex in that way, because what it is and what people say it is are polar opposites, and that's just like Dash.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird that we're all so excited about things that are in the real world so taken for granted and kind of mundane. But this is the crypto decentralized version of payment networks or high interest savings accounts. And they're so much more efficient and can solve so much more problems without having centralized authorities basically censoring you or charging a fee off the top or offering you pitifully small returns that won't even beat inflation. I mean, this is how I envision, millions of people can get financial freedom and self-sovereignty if they're able to store their wealth in a place that will actually keep the wealth and grow it, rather than, a CD that earns 1.2% APY for 5 years, which is, to me, that's offensive. Like, why would I ever want that when it's not even going to beat inflation? Or, why should I have to report all my transactions via PayPal or whatever, to some central authority that can just shut me down at any time if, let's say, they don't like where one of my transactions came from. So these two different problems, I think, are being addressed, and that's why we're excited about it. It's weird to see a whole bunch of 20 people on a live stream all wearing top hats and chanting about a digital CD, like, yeah, digital CD. But it really is the coolest thing out there, in my opinion, that's going on in crypto.
Yeah, you've made it fun, and I think that's what you need. You need it to be fun. If I could offer like a little bit of criticism to some of your guys that do Dash or that do Hex promotion, I find some of them might be a little bit too much in your face, like a little bit too aggressive with it. And this is one thing that I tell people, like if you see somebody who is just doesn't want to learn about Hex, don't dig in your heels and try to convince this person. What I do is I just leave one nugget, one thing of truth, and then I call it a day and I leave. I don't want to get banned by this guy, because if I get banned by him, I'm not going to ever be able to influence his ideas anymore, right? So I just want to say, okay, this is it, and okay, see you later. Have a good day. If you dig in your heels, then you're just going to get banned, and you've lost all ability to influence.
That's a great approach, and I try to take the calm, level-headed position. Sometimes I can get a little fiery on Twitter or whatever. When,
of course, we're all human.
Yeah. And then, but I try not to, and I try not to get banned by people as well. People wear it as a badge of honor sometimes, and that's fair if someone's going after you directly and calling you names and personally attacking you, fuck them, ban them, right? Yep. You don't need to deal with that shit. But if someone's trying to learn and maybe they ask a question in a way that sounds very, very ignorant to you, we got to realize that you've been in this for 6 years. I've been in this for 1 year. We know a shit ton more than the average person. And so it can be really hard to be patient. I agree. Especially if I go in the Telegram channel and I see people asking, when pump, when moon. It's like, all right, guy. But if they're asking a legitimate question, if they're not, you can ignore them. If they're being harmful, you can block them. But if they're asking a question, you can say either, hey, DM me because I don't have time to explain this to you in a 20,000 person chat, or you can just explain them with one of the copy pasted messages, and try to let them learn, because I think sometimes there's a fine line between somebody, concern trolling about saying something like, oh, I heard Richard, did this and just, linking to like a slanderous fake lie about Richard Hart. But there's a difference between that and, what happens if I press this red button? Like, I didn't know I was going to lose all my money. It's like, okay, now we should actually explain it to you. You're an idiot because you lost all your money, but we'll explain it to you. Yeah. And let's try to be a little bit, nicer, or it's not all kumbaya, right? But just trying to gauge that line of when is somebody concern trolling and when is somebody being hateful versus when is somebody actually intending to learn. Do you find that a lot in Dash, or like, do people just tend to come in guns blazing?
You can see, right? You can see who's actually willing to learn and who's just there because they want to cause trouble, right? So like if somebody's asking me genuine questions, I have the time of day for them. If somebody says Dash is a scam, I'm like, okay, good day, sir. I don't have time I'm not going to waste my time on that, because I know this person has cognitive dissonance. He's not going to want to learn anything. He just knows that Dash is a scam. No matter what I say, he's going to move the goalpost. So I just wasted my time, So yeah, I'm not into wasting my time.
Well, I think you have an optimistic outlook on it too, because I've started to change my mind in almost into your way of thinking, where if you drop these little nuggets of truth or these little truth bombs every once in a while, maybe you actually will change somebody that was on the fence about Hex or on the fence about Dash that didn't really know and just wanted to find out. There was a poll on Twitter the other day. I forgot who did it, but it was basically how many people have you actually converted to Hex on Twitter? And I thought the answer, because I was coming from a pessimistic point of view, I was thinking it was going to be 0 or 1%. It was actually like 25% of people have had a positive interaction that left with either changing the stance from neutral or to positive about Hex. So it doesn't happen a lot, but if you're patient, if you're persistent and consistent, then I think it can happen. I think 1 in 4 is not bad at all.
And there's something to be said for how you represent yourself. A lot of people think about when you post something on Twitter, it's only to the person that you're posting it to, but it's not. It's for anyone. There's lots of lurkers out there that are looking at these things, and how you present yourself is important if you want your project to succeed. So if you say this, if you drop that nugget of truth, the person you're posting it to is not the only one who's going to see it. Like you go back later and you say tweet activity, like 100 people saw this tweet, right? So this is what I'm saying. Like it's not you just you have to say this is something you're posting on the internet that a lot of people are going to see. So if you represent your product in a good way, then that's going to look good on your product, and that's going to bring more people to actually do their homework.
Yeah, and that's something I've learned too as a younger guy and growing up with social media. When I was first in cryptocurrency, I was probably pretty rude to a lot of people. So anyone out there, if I offended you back in the day, I am.
You offended me.
Yeah, sorry.
You're lucky I'm giving you this interview.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, you learn this internet etiquette over time, and I'm still not perfect, right? I'd probably be still ashamed to go look up and Google some of my old tweets or Telegram messages, but every day, just trying to be more patient, be more calm, cool, collected. Because we all slip up, right? And so if people are out there from the Hex community or from, people are all over Twitter from every different community, just firing shots at each other left and right. And it's just like a bunch of monkeys like throwing their shit at each other. And sometimes I just give up and I'm like, I can't even read this. But if you engage in a positive way that makes people think, I think you can actually use it as a tool to be effective. So rather than just a platform to shout as loud as you can, let's try to use it as a product to do marketing the real way and to do outreach and to make people feel like they're part of something bigger, which that's really what Hex is. It's a financial revolution. So everyone should go for it.
This is why I support you guys, and I can see where you guys are coming from. Like, I don't know if you see my tweets on Twitter. Every now and then I'll say, like, what you guys are going through now is exactly what Dash was going through back then. And if you're patient and you use a professional attitude and you just explain, and if somebody doesn't want to listen to you, just don't worry about it. You just move on. There's way more fish in the sea. And that's how you can use your time more valuably. And there's also a lot of things to explain with Hex. Like it's not a wonder why people don't understand, because there's a lot of things going on with Hex that might look scammy, but they're not in real life. Because people say it's a multi-level marketing. It's not a multi-level marketing.
One
right?
level. And actually that program is over. There's no more referral program right now.
Right. So you have to explain that to people, and they just don't take their time to do their research. And it's the same with Dash. Like, I could sit here for a whole hour and explain to you all of Dash's innovations, but because people say, oh, it's a scam because it had a rough launch, they're not going to listen to me. So whatever. So this is why I think you and I, the Dash community, the Hex community, have that in common. So, and plus there's no competition between us. We're both in different industries. We're both in different use cases. So that's why I think we could benefit from a partnership, not an official partnership, but just if people want to do it, they can, right?
Right. I mean, I like the idea that you're spitting out there into the world. Any developer that wants to build the bridge, it'd be awesome to see. I've checked out the Dash.com website. It's really in depth. Like, there's so much to it that I didn't even have a chance to read the whole thing. Absolutely. From what I gathered is basically it's a payments network, decentralized API, masternodes. I knew about the masternodes. Kind of was aware of the launch. I didn't realize that the launch for you was as bad as was basically where all the FUD came from. Is that kind of... It's kind of funny. It's
kind of funny because now a lot of projects launch that way. Like, a lot of projects have pre-mines, and nobody says anything about it. But just because Dash was one of the OGs, and this was such a cardinal sin back then to have this, but there wasn't even a pre-mine. It was a fair launch that just launched in a bad way. Like, it just launched because it wasn't supposed to pump out so many coins right away. But everybody had a chance. Anybody who was there could have mined it. It wasn't a pre-mine.
Yeah, it's funny how the things people hate tend to just change over time just because they're novel and new.
Yeah.
I mean, Ethereum was one of the first ICOs, right, that accepted Bitcoin for Ethereum. And everyone hated it when it launched. People were like, oh, I can't believe you're going to give your Bitcoin away to these developers you've never met, blah, blah, blah. Like, what if they don't even build it? It's like, well, it worked out pretty well. EOS had a very, very similar launch to Hex, and that got a lot of hate too, but it was during 2017. So I don't think everyone quickly forgot about it because they hadn't been burned yet by the 2017 bubble. So it was like during the middle of all that hype was when EOS did it, but they did a year launch distribution phase where every day for 360 days or whatever, they distributed EOS to people who wanted to transform their Ethereum for it. So that's what Hex did too. We modeled it very, very similarly, and it went really well. But I think it's easy for a lot of people to just write it off because it's new. It's, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if people copy it in the future because it works well, but it's just novel.
For sure. Well, I got to get going because it's 10 minutes after 12. I got to get going for lunch. But it was nice to be on your show. I'm glad to have a chat. I'm just going to leave a couple of nuggets if people wanted to follow me. It's at Tao of Satoshi on Twitter, or I can be my YouTube channel is Cash Alternative TV if you want to follow me there. So I appreciate the chance to come on your show.
Thanks, Chris. It's been real. We did an hour already. So yeah, Crypto Coffee 369 on Twitter. You guys know me. And I'll post this to you as well if you want to put it on your channel too.
Yeah, awesome.
Sure. See you guys.
Cheers, man. Thanks very much.